Hello, everyone. This is Fran. I am a counselor and a mental health advocate. I am the founder of Fran Therapy and Voice in Picture. Through Fran Therapy, I provide counseling service where I empower children, young people, and their families to have their needs met and voices heard. Through Fran Therapy, I then created Voices in Picture, which is a Facebook community to raise awareness on autism and mental health topics. It is a safe space for education and connection, where people can share their stories and experiences related to autism. So today we'll be talking together about the three levels of autism classification. Let me share a little presentation with you. Okay. So the three levels of autism, what do they mean? There is a little about me. So a brief introduction. The three levels of autism classification. This level should be seen as a guidelines. It's a guiding tool, it's not a definition set in stone. The level of autism can help us understand what the person needs in terms of support at a specific moment in time. It's a dynamic tool, it's not static. It doesn't say anything about someone's cognitive ability or their inner functioning. It's just an indicator of an individual current support needs. And because we know that before, during, and after a diagnosis of autism, every experience is personal, complex, and sensitive, everyone is different when it comes to autism, as we know that autism is a spectrum. So, where do the levels come from? The official source is the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. It is a widely used guide for clinicians in many parts of the world. The three levels of autism are defined by the DSM-5. The classification is based on the amount of support that a person with autism needs in their daily life to be able to function. It is not a universal classification. Not all countries use it. Some other countries, they don't have the classification of the three levels, but it does have a functional use, particularly in countries where it's required to access support services and resources. So it might help you navigate what you need in terms of resources available and support available out there when there is a diagnosis of autism. So as we said before, we have three levels. A level 1 requiring support, level 2 requiring substantial support, and level 3 requiring very substantial support. Now we need to specify that we have three levels of autism, but also two core domains in the DSM-5. And the DSM-5 requires that a person exhibit persistent impairments in two core domains to then be diagnosed with autism. Domain A and domain B. Domain B, it's related to social communication and social interaction across multiple environments. Domain B, it's about behavior, repetitive patterns of behavior, restricted interest and activities. Now, a person might have different support levels for each of the two core domains, which means that, for instance, a child diagnosed with autism might display level 1 in terms of their social and communication needs, but it might be a level 2 in terms of their behavior. This is because autism is a spectrum. You can have the same diagnosis, but of course, the needs and the level of support will more likely be different in many cases. So level 1, requiring support. Domain A, social communication and interaction. So you might be seeing someone at level 1 in domain A struggling initiating conversation. They might not be able to respond to the to and fro exchange in a conversation. They might display atypical answers to your request or conversation. They might struggle to understand the nuances of a conversation, such as facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, sarcasm, and metaphors. We need to be aware that when we communicate, we bring 75 to 80% of our body language when we are in a social interaction with someone else. So a person with autism may appear very literal in their language, very formal. This is because they struggle to understand the nuances of a conversation, the little different cues that we display when we are in a social situation. In domain B, at the level of behavior, you might be seeing someone quite inflexible in their behavior. The behavior might display difficulties in switching between activities, or when it comes the time to focus on something else. They might have a strong need for routine, very specific routine, and this might impact their independence and their time management and organizational skills. They can display this difficulty in one or more environments. It might be a school, a home, in social settings as well. So level 1. At level 1, most of the time, the traits of autism can be subtle and might be misunderstood by others. This is why individuals at level 1 might engage in a practice known as autistic masking. So masking is a conscious choice that a person with autism makes to try to hide their autistic traits because they want to fit in, they want to blend in with other neurotypical peers, which means they might force their eye contact when they are in conversation. They might try to imitate the social behavior of others because they think that socially and culturally this is what is acceptable or is expected. And they might try to actively suppress their self-simulatory behaviors. So in the long term, this is going to have a significant impact on their mental and physical health because it's kind of a draining experience to continuously suppress yourself and try to regulate your behavior in a social setting, and which could lead to severe burnout, heightened state of anxiety, and a diminished sense of self. This is an experience that is particularly reported by those individuals that were diagnosed very late in life, because of course they were completely unaware of their diagnosis, and so they were trying to force themselves to behave in a certain way to cope with the struggles and difficulties. Level 2, requiring substantial support. At level 2, in terms of social communication and interaction, you might be seeing someone with pronounced difficulties verbally and non-verbally interacting with others, with limited initiation when it comes to interact with other people. They might still display reduced or abnormal responses to someone else approaching them. And also, they might start to display sensory sensitivities, which is when they find an environment too overwhelming, maybe because the lights are too bright, or is too noisy, or too crowded. In terms of their behavior, the inflexibility of behavior is more pronounced and appears more frequently, so it's easier to spot. And most of the time in a variety of environments, school, at home, in social settings. They might struggle to cope with change, any type of change, even a minor change in routine, even a change in weather sometimes. They might not be able to exercise focus on activities or switching between activities without facing distress. They may struggle to organize their daily chores with their time management and with their independence in general. Level 3, requiring very substantial support. In terms of social and communication skills, at level 3, you might be seeing someone with severe impairments in terms of their verbal and nonverbal communication. They might initiate conversation with minimal speech, most of the time keywords that are used primarily to express actually their needs and wants, but they typically don't engage in social interaction. And they might have some intelligible speech or no speech at all. In terms of behavior, the inflexibility of behavior at level 3 in most of the cases is quite severe and spread across multiple environments. There is a great distrust in focusing on activity, in transitioning, even a simple transition from indoor to outdoor or vice versa might be cause of distress. A child with autism at level 3 or any person might struggle actually to understand that there are other people surrounding them and that they are at risk of eloping or wandering off because also there is an ineffectiveness in their communication. So they are not able to communicate how they are feeling, why they are feeling a certain way. And this builds up frustration. So this is why there is a risk of behavior like wandering off, eloping. They might also have very heightened sensory sensitivity, which means that they are easily overwhelmed by a change in environment, by bright environment, crowded places, noisy places. So a few practical examples. At level 1, you might be seeing someone that gets anxious when their routine is disrupted. So for example, they're about to have breakfast and they don't have access to their favorite brand of cereal. That's cause of anxiety. Level 2, requiring substantial support. A person at this level might require a different communication tool to be able to express their needs and wants. So they might prefer to communicate with you through a communication board, visual aids, speech and language. And they might prefer highly structured environment because that lowers their level of distress. At level 3, requiring very substantial support, a person at level 3 might have an intense need for routine, and even a minor change, a change in temperature, a change in weather, wearing specific clothes rather than others might be cause of distress. They might need a specialized communication system, oftentimes through technology, to be able to express even the most basic needs and wants. So what's more important than the levels? What's important to understand is that these levels are not fixed, are not set in stone. A person level is going to naturally change over time because of their development, because of the intervention, and because of changes in environment, a change in the family dynamic, a transition to a new school. So this level should be seen just as a snapshot in time of the support that a person requires to function in their environment. It's never about intelligence, it's never about cognitive ability or potential. It's just about the amount of support that is needed to be able to function daily. And every experience is unique. So even though you might have the same diagnosis at the same levels, one person's experience of autism is different to another one. Each person has different strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and environments they are part of. And the environment does have an influence. So every experience should be supported in a tailored way. Now, to be able to help a person with autism, First thing should be an holistic evaluation and then an holistic care plan. So the caring should encompass areas such as communication, sensory accommodation, emotional and physical well-being. The DSM acknowledge that they need to specify if the diagnosis is accompanied by other intellectual impairments, language impairments, or if there are non-medical or genetical conditions. We know that oftentimes with autism there are co-occurring conditions such as epilepsy and gastrointestinal issues. This is why it's important to have an holistic evaluation first, and then to set up an holistic care plan, because it's not only about the medical support, but it's also about the emotional support, the support at home, at school, in the different social settings that a person wants to be part of. Some of the interventions that are available out there, just to give you an idea. For those people that are high functioning, oftentimes CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, it's a resourceful way of helping them to modify negative patterns of behavior or that rigid thinking that maybe they have around routines. And it does help with managing anxiety and also improves their problem solving ability, the ability to plan your daily schedule, the ability to focus on your activities. There is also another part of the training, which is the social skills training, that provides targeted instruction on social behavior. So, for example, it might help a teenager to understand what are the social cues in a conversation and the social habits in a conversation, that it's possible to interpret nonverbal cues, and in the end, how to navigate friendships. Another important bit is related to sensory intervention. They do help people to regulate their sensory experiences and increase tolerance to stimuli, such as, a crowd environment, a too bright environment. And also, more importantly, the work that can be done around communication. So, of course, nowadays we know that there is a lot of technology that we can use to support communication, but also everyone is different. So some people with autism, especially children, might start to respond very well to sign language. And there is a simplified version of it, which I invite you to check out, that it's Makaton. It's not as complex as sign language, and it starts in a very easy way just by using familiar and keywords that needs to be signed as well as spoken. And then you've got speech, picture exchange communication system, or all those software for speech generation. So what can we do to support a person with autism? So first and foremost, I think it's important to know that we are not here to correct the behavior. We are here to understand first. So I invite everyone when I work with parents, but also when I work in schools, to become an explorer. So it's important to start by observing why a child is behaving the way they are behaving. What do they see? How do they perceive the world around them? How do they move through the world? Do they like to learn by following instruction, or they prefer movement? This exploration is going to give you what you need in terms of those precious insights for finding the best way to provide support. And the goal is not finding a solution as such, but is finding the solution that works in the moment, and then being able to be flexible in your framework, in your toolbox, and already knowing that the person is going to grow and is going to change over time. So it's important to be able to focus on those needs and how they change over time. Thank you. And if you have any question at all now, or if you have any thoughts that arise later, you can find me through my website or through any of my social platforms. And I hope you do connect with me so that we can have helpful chats. Okay, so we have a question. What's the most important thing for a parent to remember when they hear their child has a certain autism level? I do think that the most important bit is not getting fixated with the level, in the sense that the level is just an indication. So, of course, you might find out that your child has a sensory need, that your child has communication needs, or that there are certain behaviors that can be readdressed and helped. But just don't get fixated. It's just a starting point. And then, even though for certain levels you might hear that there are certain type of solution out there, I do invite you to be curious and to look for what works and what is already working actually, and what can work in the future. Because as a parent, you know your child best. So if I'm working with a parent, I always want to find out what is already working at home as well as in other contexts, and then start from there. There is not only the solution that are found out there or the professional provides you, there is also the solution that you actually found yourself.